Mark 13, verse 37, Jesus said, "But what I say to you," in other words, what I say to Peter, James, John, and Andrew, I say to all, keep on the watch. So it wasn't simply to the anointed, it was also to the other sheep. The other sheep too must heed this lesson. Yes, this parable is counsel and a warning to all of Christ's followers. But how can we apply the lesson on staying watchful? Well, we need to strengthen our conviction that the end is truly near. If I were to ask you what convinces you that we're close to the end, how would you respond? For instance, maybe you're thinking of 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, the characteristics that would mark the last days. And that's true. People have no natural affection. They're without self-control. They're fierce. Road rage is angrier than ever. People have a short fuse and explode with very little provocation. Just recently, my wife Nadia and I were stopped at a red light and observed two drivers having a shouting match full of obscenities. We were happy that we weren't in the mix and that neither of them had a gun. But that is becoming commonplace in today's world. What about another evidence that we're living close to the end? We're living in the time period symbolized by the feat of Nebuchadnezzar's dream image, the Anglo-American world power. Other nations may challenge it, but it will not be replaced according to Bible prophecy. That's amazing when we think about it and we look at what's happening on the world scene today.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? We've just been watching governing body member Gage Fleegle, recently appointed governing body member Gage Fleegle, speaking at this year's Exercise Patience Convention. This talk is from the Friday afternoon. His theme, "You know neither the day nor the hour." And as far as I can make out, Gage Fleegle is encouraging Jehovah's Witnesses to strengthen their convictions that they are living in the last days. It's not a case of we are in the last days and here is irrefutable evidence. It's a case of you need to be convinced that we're in the last days. And if you're struggling in that department, allow me to throw you some scraps that might satisfy you if your threshold for evidence is basically on the floor. And the evidence that he's giving Jehovah's Witnesses, at least in the clip that we've just seen, is twofold. Number one, people have road rage. The fact that people are shouting at each other in the street and using obscenities means we must be in the last days. And as a second knockout punch to convince people that we're living in the last days, Gage Fleegle hits us with Anglo-America. So the fact that Britain exists and America exists, and historically the two have been allies, continue to be allies, that means we're living in the last days. This is the sort of thing you would fall for as a Jehovah's Witness, this sort of flimsy argumentation. Neither of those two countries would accept, if you were to interview your average American or your average Brit, and I am British, neither would say, oh yes, we're a tandem country, we're a tandem world power. Everything we do, everything we decide upon is influenced by the other. The whole Anglo-American nonsense makes no sense whatsoever. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness, it's not a case of whether you are personally persuaded by this. It's irrelevant whether you personally view Britain and America as a dual world power, or the prophecy of the immense image in Daniel to be in some way foretelling world events nowadays. You don't have an option in all of this. You have to believe, otherwise you're an apostate, and you could lose all of your family.